Hello and welcome to the breakdown of episode 8 of Moriarty the Patriot. It is my favourite day of the week and I really do get excited to watch the ever unfolding mystery that is Moriarty the Patriot. This week's episode was titled A Study in S Part 1. It was interesting to find that some of you guys said that it was translated as A Study in Sherlock, but after watching this week's episode, I can definitely tell you this is A Study in Scarlet's plot. There are some little tweaks, and I can see where the story has been tinkered a little bit, but it is still the same plot, and I will obviously mention that as I go through. So I still think it's going to be a two-parter, but you guys did say that in the manga it is a three-parter. So whether there is a third part tacked onto the end, it will be interesting. As far as we're going right now, everything seems to be kind of lining up with the book and how I remember it. And I did have to quickly go on a little bit of a buzz read and reread the book a little bit just to remind myself, just in case it would come up. I am speaking from still a anime-only point of view, but I have read the source material in which this chapter seems to be based upon. So it's going to be very interesting to see, obviously, the differences between the original fiction, which is the book, the manga, and then the actual anime. It's going to be interesting to see how everything's been changed. This week's episode was absolutely fantastic, and again, I am never disappointed when it comes to Moriarty the Patriot. Also very interesting to see an episode where William himself only really appears at the very end sequence. This time we are left alone with our newfound, very strange weirdo, which is, of course, Sherlock Holmes himself, who we do love for being our weirdo, but nonetheless, he is a weirdo. Before we get into the initial breakdown, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed to the page. Please go ahead and give the little page a little follow, a subscribe, come follow us. It is very soon I will be releasing the Winter 2021 anime list, in which I tell you guys what I'm watching next season. One of my favourite animes of this season is Moriarty on the list, I wonder. Come along and make sure you are subscribed so you can see my overall thoughts. You also get to see what I plan to break down next season, and hopefully you guys will be following me across to see where the anime path leads us next. As well, we do have a Discord. You can go ahead, join a server. You get a notification whenever a video goes up online. I will plan to be using it as something bigger later down the line when there is more of us, but we are still in our baby stages. There are not enough of us for me to do a great deal online just yet, but it is... all the building blocks are slowly getting into place for that. So thank you guys again for tuning in. This week's episode, I've got a little bit of history for you guys, so there's a bit of history going on. There are some more animation points that I want to point out because there's some really nice light going on this week. And generally, I'm just picking up on the plot, so hopefully not too heavy time-wise. Last week's episode was definitely a shorter of the videos. So let us begin, my friends. We are opening, of course we had to. We are at 221B, or 221B, Baker Street. There is, of course, the Sherlock Museum in London, actually on Baker Street. You can still go to it. Hopefully it survives COVID, but a very nice place to go if you yourself are a Sherlock enthusiast and you get to go in and visit and see Baker Street for your own self. As well, you'll note if you are coming off on the Bakerloo line, on the underground, the wallpaper, the tiles on the platform are all the silhouettes of Sherlock Holmes, and he's wearing his deerstalker. So, very nice little fact brimming in for you guys there. What I'm not so keen on is Miss Hudson is actually the woman we saw last week. Last week I was debating whether it was Mary, which is Watson's beloved. It's not. It is Miss Hudson. So I'm not sure I don't get the title wrong there. I'm so used to seeing her as an older woman, I'm sorry. I'm just so used to her being older. Just going to make sure I keep slapping myself and go, no, it's Miss Hudson in this. It's definitely a Miss Hudson. We open straight into the plot of what is A Study in Scarlet. Slightly, we kind of skip the forefront of the narrator bit with Watson. Miss Hudson is so angry at Sherlock because he is bad at keeping up with the rent. He has no money. She even tells him, you need to get a real job. And that is when we look into Stamford. And Stamford was definitely in the book. Stamford is introduced to Miss Hudson, and we find out he is a doctor at St. Bartholomew's. Holmes there sneakily going, can you lend me some money? Where this is where Stamford tells Sherlock, maybe you should invest in a flatmate to split your rent. The study in Scarlet, just for those people who are interested, it opens with the narrator as being Watson. Watson has been wounded in the Afghan war and he essentially comes back. He is on a very tight amount of money, which we do all get from the breakdown later on anyway, but just so you guys get some bearing on where it has started a little bit different, but it is still the same story. Watson's friend Stamford, yep, you're hearing right, tells him that he knows of a room going. That's how the book starts, essentially. Let's cut back to Sherlock and our anime itself. So let's go back to Moriarty. Sherlock presents his roommate candidates for Mrs. Hudson, and to say she's not overly impressed of the lineup. First things first, we have a struggling actor who is like, I want a patron. I will pay you when I get big, which isn't quite what Miss Hudson wants when she's already got one person like that who's barely paying the rent. Don't need a second person. The second lineup is a prostitute who is like asking, can I bring back the men for my work in the house? Again, not quite what Miss Hudson wants. And the third one is an old man who believes that the rent is free. We now get a nice little scene set in a Victorian English pub. The pub gets a pass, but there are some bits I've got a few issues with. I do believe it is a bit too big for a London pub. Most pubs in London, if you are lucky enough to go to any of the old Victorian ones, you will find they often tend to be quite cramped. But it's a nice cramped. It's a good cosy feeling cramped. And the decor is correct. There would be wood floorings. The wood on the walls, absolutely perfect. There's brocade on the walls. Again, gets a pass. Pictures on the walls, gets a pass. I don't think I've been to too many pubs in London where they are that big. But there are definitely some interesting pubs in London, and I definitely recommend you check them out at some point if you ever come to London. Sherlock asks Stamford for some help, where Stamford, like in the book, tells us he knows a man named Watson. And this is our first introduction to Watson, so we're going to do a bit of a character breakdown. And because I falsely thought I saw him last episode, and he definitely was not in last episode. Watson is wearing a bowler hat, which is the more preferred hat of the period. Even though people tend to think the top hat was more closely worn in London, it was actually the bowler hat, which is more popular. He has got a very fair, light, blondie grey hair. It almost differs on Elena type ashen. It's very tidy. So what we can get immediately is Watson definitely is very organised. He's very neat. And his character is a very tidy character. Unlike someone who's got the messy hair that is Sherlock. He's got brown eyes. Brown generally means that you are independent, determined, trustworthy, secure and stable. All things I would definitely put in the line with Watson. A brown suit with a yellow tie is his attire, where the brown suit, again, meaning he has a reliability, he is secure, safe. Brown also can convey a sense of loneliness, which is ironic as Moriarty is often seen wearing a brown suit. And I did think it quite nice, of course, he's wearing that brown suit for a sense of, again, appearances. He looks neat. The character looks very neat and crisp. The yellow tie is a sense of freshness, happiness, positive optimism and loyalty. All things I would definitely put down to the right-hand man of Sherlock himself. He holds a walking cane, which is, again, typical of the period where everybody would have a walking cane. It completes that really nice look that he's got going on. Absolutely love it. We also find quite off the bat that he is right on time, organised and very punctual, as he arrives at the expected time to receive no answer when he knocks upon the door, where we see him proceed inside. He is met by a cloud of purple smoke, where he eventually finds Sherlock Holmes on the floor covered in blood. I will also, quick little note because I really like it, Sherlock has his hair down in this scene and it's just a treat, okay? It's just a little treat because I was really curious to see if he'd let it down at some point, just to see what he'd look like with that hair loose. Absolutely love it. Our Dr. Watson wastes absolutely no time in checking for Sherlock's post, trying to find out if Sherlock is alive. Sherlock is alive. He is completely uninjured. He kind of asks for the time, as Watson is really close proximity to him, where he steals his pocket watch to check the time, and we find out that he fell asleep whilst conducting one of his magnificent experiments, and the experiment this time is an agent which detects whether blood is present. Very handy, you would agree, to the world of crime. Even if the blood is really, really months old, it will still tell you that blood is there. Very fantastic stuff. The idea of him being interested in forensics coming out here. Sherlock is covered in cow blood. He is absolutely so excited about the findings, he forgets that there's a complete stranger in his room and he starts to tell him about his magnificent invention, his experiment. And that's when he goes, wait, who are you? Well, we are introduced formally by the character himself to John H. Watson, who is a friend of Stanford. So Sherlock introduces Watson to us, the audience. Now again, we've seen it happen. We saw this happen on the Noatic, where Sherlock breaks down Moriarty to us. But this time we're going to see Sherlock break down Watson to the audience. Back in line with how great his simple deduction really is, we get to see that level of genius thrown back at us. But at the same time, it teaches us, the audience, as well as Sherlock, who is this man? Who is John H. Watson? I already mentioned right off the bat that he is indeed a doctor who has come back from the Afghan war. Sherlock deduces this because he wasted absolutely no time in checking on the collapsed Holmes. He checked for a pulse, he checked his airwaves. He also says that you have a sunburn, which you would not gain from London at this time of the year. To be fair, I've never had sunburn from London. The only time I've ever caught sunburn was when I was down in Tenerife. I'm lucky enough that I don't really get sunburnt that easy, but I've never had it from going to visit London. He also says that you must be a retired medic because the pocket watch that you carry around with you is one which is issued to those who are discharged from the army. And he says that means you must be living on a soldier's pension, which means you're tight for money, which is absolutely correct. Within the book of the Study in Scarlet, he was looking for a new place to live because his current place was a bit on the expensive side, although Sherlock in this tells us that he's staying in a hotel. Watson is off the bat impressed. Sherlock says, "Are you going to write about this in your journal, that my new flatmate is bloody amazing chap because he has ink smudged on his right thumb?" And that is when Hudson says, "You must come with me, dear chap." And he approves of John, but the question is, will Miss Hudson approve of our new housemate? And this is when we get to see the Bugle Tavern, and this is a much better tavern for me. This tavern definitely has all of the beautiful inklings of the English pub. It's still a wee bit on the big side, but I can still give it many, many passes. This pass is better than the other one. We've got the beautiful smoky atmosphere that you would get in these pubs. The decoration is bang on point. You've got the stained glass in the windows. We've got a wooden floor. We've got the woodwork on the walls. We have an alcove. I like this representation. You could easily tell me that, yes, we're now in London. I would definitely go, yes, we're definitely in London. I can vouch for that. It does remind me of a pub I've been to within the Soho area, but for the life of me, cannot remember the name. It's been quite a while since I went down to London, especially this year where I have not been since March. Miss Hudson within this universe, where we have a Miss Hudson who can definitely handle her drink, but she does look very out of place at the bar. Generally speaking, a bar at the Victorian period was not a place for a woman. You would get a few, obviously, bartenders who would be female, but it was definitely a place where upper standing women would not be seen. Miss Hudson in this coming across as a bit more of a mid-class because she can definitely afford a house in London. Definitely know she's got some money. I know how Miss Hudson in the Sherlock universe is and how she's depicted, but I'm not going to give that just yet because we don't quite know what the story behind Miss Hudson in this universe is, so going to hold back on giving you any information there. Watson straight out flat praises Sherlock for his power of his observation, and this is all done in front of Miss Hudson. Miss Hudson agreeing that Sherlock has definitely wasted his ability, and she believes that he should be using his mind for the betterment of the world. That's where Sherlock manages to sneak off, and he says, "I'm going to the toilet," which allows us a chance to talk between Miss Hudson and Watson. Watson asking Miss Hudson, what type of man is Sherlock? She flat out says, "I don't understand him." And fair enough. He's quite hard to understand. He's quite the interesting character, shall we say. She even says that he fails to come home from days on end. And when he does come home, he can sometimes lock himself away and ignore her completely. But she does say once in a while he is reliable, kind, and he does actually do what is asked of him. They're kind of implying that she perhaps likes Sherlock on a bit of a deeper level, although it is Watson who says that you worry about him like a family. Hopefully that is the case. I don't know how I would feel if there was a implied romance between the two, because Sherlock doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. The only woman for Sherlock is Irene Adler. That's the woman I bat for. Again, she continues to say that he is childish, but he needs a well-grounded housemate. And naturally as well, Watson and Hudson do get on with each other. We see that in most of the adaptations and the books that Hudson and Watson do get on quite well, where she starts to ask about his time as a soldier, and that is where Sherlock reappears, almost surprised that they're getting on as well as they do. But the night, sadly, is interrupted by Inspector Lestrade. Very excited to see more characters that I know of slowly being introduced into the plot. Inspector Lestrade works for Scotland Yard, and yes, guys, it rhymes. Inspector Lestrade is from Scotland Yard. There you go. Nice little rhyme in case anybody ever forgets. We see Holmes getting really excited. He's like, has my case come? This is it. Really excited, Sherlock. He tells Watson, this is my job. And I aid the police when the cases are way beyond them and I end up solving them because I am a consulting detective. But sadly, it's not the case. Lestrade has not come here for giving him a case. Essentially, he has come here because a case has led him to Sherlock. Count Drebber has been murdered, and he was murdered around 10 p.m. and there was a message written in blood by the body, and it simply read Sherlock. Hence, our green filter starts to come back, and it's quite interesting that our green filter up to this point, last week we saw it used with how crazy Enders was getting, and it was a sense of instability, him going out of control. Bit interesting that obviously I told you I wasn't quite sure whether green was the correct colour. Generally, green means greed, jealousy, and it can be ambition and rebirth. Not quite the colours I'd put to Sherlock being arrested or either of these characters. Perhaps a different colour in general I think would hit it off better. But it definitely works because the polar opposite colour which stands out against the red filters we normally get is green. Sherlock is now under arrest for the Count's murder. We now get a cutscene with Sherlock with some irises. Little fun fact for you guys, my favourite flower is actually the blue iris and the purple iris. There's different types of iris, but I love the iris. I think they're really pretty. And the flower stands for, if you know me from my Coy to Producer days, it stands for hope, wisdom and trust. In this sense, Sherlock is being praised for his wisdom. Absolutely love the fact that they've taken some time to think about what flower really fits him. We cut back to Sherlock being walked over to Scotland Yard by Lestrade. Miss Hudson and Watson, because they are under suspicion, so they're also being brought into Scotland Yard. But we also do see that Watson tries to vouch for Sherlock by saying, well, he was with us at 10 o'clock when the murder occurred. That's also where we see Sherlock mocking Scotland Yard. And this has always been a feature throughout all the books, regardless of what universe you're in. The fact that Sherlock looks down upon Scotland Yard, and Scotland Yard often presented as being not so good at their job. Which is fair because this definitely comes into some facts I'm about to give you when I go into some history. I'm just going to get the anime out of the way, then I'm going to go into the history dive. We are introduced to Gregson, and quick note that Sherlock is a lot taller. I love the fact that Sherlock is looking down upon him. And Gregson is finally thrilled that he has finally got the Bohemian, as he calls him, arrested. Where Sherlock calls, I love it so much, he calls him a prat, and he mocks him for being forever the assistant inspector, but never the inspector. And it's the face he uses. If you've ever seen the sarcastic face meme that is SpongeBob, and it's the herp derp derp kind of face, it is that face. It's him going, oh, the forever expected, blah, 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 blah. I am Sherlock, haha. It kind of reminds me of that meme, and I would kill for somebody to make a meme out of that. Sherlock's face over SpongeBob doing the her der der kind of thing. I would kill to see that. Quick note that Gregson's eyes are green, which is generally a sign of jealousy, envy, or greed. I definitely think that is definitely falling in line with what we've seen of the character so far. He's definitely a very jealous, envious character who, he must be envious that he can't reach the position of inspector, so quite a nice little touch there. Let's have a history dump quickly because we haven't had one for quite some time now. We're going to talk about the police of the Victorian period because we have a nice picture, hopefully up on screen, of the police uniforms from the anime. So we'll go anime first, then flick to the real life counterparts. Within the anime, you can see they have got striped cuffs. However, now I'm going to put up the correct pictures from the period. You can see that they have indeed got these striped bands, but they are not cuffs. They are definitely just bands which are sewn into the top of the coat. They've still got a cuff above them, so slight little detour, but again, most of the rest of it is on point. The hats are on point. There's normally as we see in the anime as well, there is a little brooch on the front of them. The hats were hardened so the guys could peek over walls. The uniform is navy, which again we see in the anime, absolutely correct. Within the anime as well, you can see the truncheon, which the police would often carry around with them. The nickname for the police at the time are either Bobby, which I definitely recall, and I've heard Bobby's being used even for nowadays, even though it's slightly older language, and Peelers. Why? Because the Metropolitan Police Act in 1829 and the fact that the first professional policemen were actually set up in 1829 by a man named Robert Peel. hence the name. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of fun information as well. It was interesting to note that there was very huge distrust in the period police at the time. They were often also seen as being very poor at their jobs. Us seeing Sherlock mocking Scotland Yard, it's to the period, and it would definitely fit in straight away that the fact that there was this distrust in the police and they were often seen as quite bumbling as they would go around. I think one of my favourite scenes which comes to mind when it comes to Sherlock, Robert Downey Jr. first movie, when Sherlock and Watson arrive at the Brompton Cemetery scene, where obviously Blackwood has been buried and now risen from the grave, it is the fact that Watson likens it to being on a rugby field because the police have literally stomped over all the evidence and it looks like they've been playing rugby. Gregson sends Sherlock away but decides that he wants to go and question Watson and Hudson, where we see that he has actually gone into Sherlock's house. He has found some very interesting stuff. He says that the boots are the same size as the culprit. And then he says that your gun is the same as the one that was used on the scene, which made me go immediately, this is a setup. And it started getting me thinking about who would be behind a setup and why Sherlock's name was the one mentioned. Don't worry, dear, I see you. Even though you're not here present in the episode, I see you, boy, I see you. We now get a very nice visual of a moon going through a barred window. The moon as well is full, so it's quite nice little touch. We get a very cool scene where Lestrade comes out to ask Sherlock if he is innocent. And Sherlock says the footprints could be faked. The pistol is brand new, it's never been fired. You should even be able to tell that from looking at the pistol. And Sherlock says, this is no ordinary case. Because I absolutely love lighting, I like breaking down the lighting in this anime in particular. The light on Sherlock at this point, we've got a very blue cold light on Sherlock, which is obviously from our full moon. There is obviously a divide between him and Lestrade. Lestrade's side is yellow and warm because he would have a gas lamp on his side. Absolutely love the contrasting colours there. Sherlock is literally out in the cold in his cell, whilst on the other side Lestrade is in the warmth. Also, the full moon is often especially if you're more into those the Wiccan beliefs or stuff like that, the full moon is often a time where people would believe that the truth would come out. If there was a full moon, it generally means that something was uncovered. Most of the time, if somebody's been a bit naughty or not quite telling the truth, it generally comes out apparently around that time, depending on whether you believe it or not. Sherlock asks Lestrade whether he can see the crime scene, and he says, I intend to find the killer because the killer has called me out, because obviously his name was the one written on the crime scene. And it's just such a beautiful shot where we get Sherlock sitting up now and the moon is currently shining from behind him because Sherlock intends to uncover the truth, which we already know. The moon is often associated with uncovering the truth. He's going to shine light upon a very dark case. I like gushing over this anime. You guys know me by now. I absolutely love gushing over it. Stuff like that is what makes me gush over the anime because it's just so beautifully set up. Hudson and Watson are both released, and then they finally see Sherlock, who then asks Watson for his help on finding the true culprit. Hudson as well says, I ask you also to help him with this. And this is indeed our first case where we see our famous duo together working as a team. And this is a very exciting moment. We now arrive upon the scene. Little things started to grab my interest quite quickly. Grabber's mansion house is upon a street full of aristocratic mansions. I wonder who has a thing against aristocrats and bad nobles. I wonder. The body is untouched and everything has been left as it is. Our mystery begins. I absolutely love the fact that we get a nice shot of everything in place, untouched. And it is just the little tiny details like the gaslight on the table. The paintings as well, we get quite a few nice shots of the beautiful artworks on the walls. The body as well, Drebber is wearing his smoking jacket. Gregson and Lestrade are both present. It was interesting to see that he let Lestrade take Sherlock onto the scene. Our victim is Enoch J. Drebber. Drebber is informed to have he's got a couple of maids, a butler, and an older woman who does the cooking. Interestingly enough, the first maid was away at the time of the murder because apparently she received a letter from her lover and she was told to meet outside and she waited there, but the lover never turned up. She was apparently first upon the scene and the one who found the body. The second maid apparently got wind that her father had collapsed, so she rushed away to go find him absolutely fine. The butler, who had a thing for drinking whiskey, ended up with whiskey that was laced in presumably sleeping pills and ended up sleeping through the entire affair. And the final woman, the older woman who cooks, of course we know she's in a detached house anyway. We understand that she would lock herself in her room. She was very hard of hearing and she would then sit and sew. But apparently if there was a lightning storm or there was a storm or anything, she would definitely sit through it, unable to hear it. So not a single person was present to hear any of the gunshots. And the body was found by the maid at 10:15. Watson is asked by Sherlock to inspect the body, where we get some more information. We find out that there were 4 gunshots to the chest, fired off at point-blank range. There was no sign of a struggle. Drebber died of blood loss, where Watson says he died immediately. So obviously, guys, the guy died immediately or really, really quickly. I guess it's the one thing he probably couldn't do. Write a name. You can't write a name, guys, when you're dead. Sherlock praises John from behind the desk. I like how clever this is, where he lies and says, I'm just checking for loose change. And they obviously pull him out, telling him to stop clowning around. But it's like, he was up to something. And me reading the book, I knew exactly what it was that he found behind there. And we do see him put something away in his pocket. Sherlock says, do you want to know what it is I've learnt so far? First things first, the writing is not written by the Count. It was written by the culprit. The size of the letter is thicker than the Count's bloodied finger, so he would therefore need to go through it twice to trace it out to make it that thick, but that would be really hard if he was dying really quickly of blood loss. Therefore, the killer's finger must be bigger than Drebber's. There is also quite the odd choice that they've used the killer in the cutscenes here, and his hand is green. And obviously, we've seen the green filter used a few times. Just very interesting they use colour green. Whether the killer ends up having some kind of motivation, like greed, whether it's envy or jealousy for Drebber, would be very interesting to see what the actual case was there. I believe we're going to have to wait to see what actual plan for Moriarty's side of things would be to find out what that is. The killer is definitely larger than the Count, and we do definitely see a larger man at the end. The killer also shot Drebber in the chest 4 times. Sherlock says if he was a skilled killer, he would have shot him in the head and maybe the heart. So we can deduce that the killer is messy. He had no aim and he was definitely unskilled. And because he missed all the vitals, we know that he fired very blindly. And this is when obviously things started to line up, where Sherlock says he took such care to make sure that the maids were all away, that there's no witnesses around to witness this. But when it came to the crime itself, the amateur performer was following a well-crafted script whilst playing the role of the killer. Therefore, the killer must be an amateur, but somebody capable who was imparting some wisdom. A mastermind has put this plan together. We're all shouting, we know exactly who is behind this one. The green filter comes back. Sherlock starts to realise something. Somebody is pulling the strings. Somebody is behind the scenes again. And we get that flashback to the murder upon the Noatic because it's got the same traits as someone being of a clever mastermind being behind the entire murder, which is what we got before. And of course, we know that William is behind this one. It's just very interesting because this time we're actually on a different side. Normally, up until this point, we've been on the side of the murder. We've followed out the plan. We know what the plan is behind the murder. We've seen the murder enacted. This time, from the point of view of Sherlock as well, we the audience are like Sherlock. We are trying to work out what the motives are. We know how William works, so we obviously know that somebody's definitely had it out for this guy. Drebber is presumably somebody who's done something quite naughty. Someone wants revenge upon Drebber. We can obviously make those kind of deductions because we followed Moriarty for 7 episodes now, so we can definitely start linking things and trying to deduce what the main culprit wanted. Lestrade then says, why did the culprit write your name? Where Sherlock says, I have no clue. We need to catch up to him and ask him. And that is when Gregson has finally said, I've had enough and I want to interrogate Holmes and get him to confess. Because Gregson doesn't care what he's just found out. He's not moved by any of it. He just wants to see Sherlock behind bars. And that is when Sherlock slips a bit of paper into Watson's coat pocket. And the red filter comes back. And that's when I knew we were going to see our boy. Because normally in Moriarty the Patriot, up until this point, the red filter has been used to signify danger, murder, crime, bloodshed. We often see it when something bad's going down. Normally, we see it at the start when they set out the crime, or they often show it when Moriarty is around. We then hear the man of the hour's voice, and he says, "So as long as you get your revenge, it doesn't matter to you if you lose your life as a result," aka he's talking to the murderer. And we see our culprit, and we can deduce our culprit is terminally ill. He's definitely a larger man, and he even says, "I've not got much time left. My wish has already been granted," aka he wanted to kill Drebber. Following the usual themes when it comes to somebody asking William for help, my life now means nothing. I love this so much. William is wearing that hooded capelet again. Whenever he wears that capelet, it's a little bit creepy. And he is standing behind a tattered curtain because he is the man behind the cover-up. He is the man behind the plan. He is the man behind the culprit. So it's interesting to see that there, that obviously the culprit is sitting one side of the curtain. There's a rag in the way, and then there's William Moriarty. There's two layers linking him to the actual crime itself. He then says, as the culprit walks away, and we can obviously get a look of the bigger man, that his death is nearing. He is all alone in the world. It allows me to test him, aka Sherlock, and it's so exciting. It really is, the way they're just setting this up. Next week, we are getting part 2 to A Study in S. This is definitely the Study in Scarlet plot. So as much as it's cool to know that it is a Study in Sherlock in Japan, it is definitely the plot to Study in Scarlet. This is exactly the same. The players are the same. The plot is the same. Gregson and Drebber all within it. Within the book, though, it's interesting to note that Drebber didn't write Sherlock. Drebber actually writes Rascher, which is German for revenge. Also note that within the Study of Scarlet, Chapter 1, which is what we're following right now, Moriarty doesn't actually appear. So things have been tweaked to get our exciting crime consultant within this story. The bit which is missing, which I suspect is what has been given to Watson, is the note to the secretary. So when we see Sherlock go behind the desk, he picks up the note, and obviously he doesn't want Gregson or Lestrade to see it. He ends up giving it to Watson. I believe that's probably going to be the note which Drebber's wrote to his own secretary, which is going to probably link us along with the plot. So very exciting stuff, and I'm also just hyped that they are following the actual plot for the book, so very excited there. Of course, they are taking some artistic liberties to tweak a few things. This week's episode, again, absolutely fantastic. Really exciting to see Sherlock in action, seeing him using those skills of his to deduce things. They've continued using the methods of observation to introduce Watson to us, the audience, like they did with Moriarty as well last week. I'm not 100% keen on the way they've chosen to show Mrs. Hudson, or Miss Hudson in this, but everything else, absolutely loving it as always. Fantastic to see the story retold in a very different manner. It was really exciting because as things were being worked out on the fact that there was a murder, and we were on the other side, we were on a different page from Moriarty. It was so interesting to go, oh my god, I know who's behind this. You kind of look at the scene in a different manner. So when we saw the fact that his house was along a street full of aristocrats, I'm like, ooh, it's following the same pattern that all of the other murders so far with William Moriarty has followed. It's very interesting for us, the audience, to be on a different page this time. We're looking at it from a different perspective, and this time we're following Sherlock as we try to unravel the entire situation. Next week's episode, I hope, is going to be following Chapter 2 of The Study in Scarlet. You guys have said that apparently it was a 3-parter within the manga. It's going to be interesting to see if that is the case, but if it is a 3-parter, that takes us up to episode 10, meaning there will only be 2 episodes left of this season. Although we are very lucky, we do not have to wait too long. The second season, or the second part of season 1, has been announced for next year in April. You can bet your bottom dollar, guys, I will be definitely picking this up again in April and continuing my analysis. So if you are a fan of the way I do it, if you've learned anything or just seeing a slight different take on breaking these things down with like an English kind of eye, definitely make sure you are subscribed to the page so you guys do not miss out when I do the next season, whenever that comes out. I have had so much fun. Again, seeing those filters, seeing the light, the way they portray things. There's some fantastic moments within even this episode. One of my favourites definitely being the scene with Sherlock and Lestrade with the jail cell between them. That's the different colour lights and the contrasting between that scene. Absolutely love the way that scene was lit. It's fantastic to see it. I get absolutely excited when I talk about this anime in general, and I'm having so much fun with it. It is sad to see that the anime season is starting to wind down. Great to see the attention to details when it comes to things like the pubs and it comes to the police officers. I did say a few episodes ago when I spoke about the firefighters, I was very excited to see if we'd get a look at the policemen of the time. Of course we did. And it's nice to see Lestrade finally added to the story. Sherlock without having Lestrade to torment. That is it even Sherlock? I do wonder if we're going to meet Sherlock's older brother, Mycroft. And I can imagine the manga readers going, yeah, in the background. I suspect we probably will at some point. Very interesting to see how that's going to come in because, I don't know, my favourite portrayal of that character in particular is Stephen Fry. Very excited to see more characters coming into the fray. Can't wait. And it's also quite sad that we've only got 4 episodes left. I have no doubts that the last 4 episodes are going to be killer. They're going to be absolutely insane. I can't wait. And also quite nice that we did manage to sneak Moriarty into the episode, even though it was a Sherlock-focused episode. Seeing Watson finally introduced and finally seeing our duo together, absolutely love it. Can't wait to see more from our dear Watson. Very excited in general just to see how the dynamic between those two is portrayed on the anime screen. I hope you guys are having a great day, hoping you guys are staying safe. Please give me a like if you learned absolutely anything from this episode. Release schedule for the channel. Monday is Moriarty, obviously. Best day of the week in my opinion. Tuesday, Wednesday is The Golden Kamuy Season 3. Absolutely loving that one. Wednesday mornings we have Ikebukuro Westgate Park. Wednesday afternoon / nighttime, depending where you are in the world, Noodles. Friday / Saturday we have Journey of Elena. So have a good day guys. Thank you so much and I will see you guys next week for the second part of A Study in S. Bye bye guys.